All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a ruler who often gets lost in the shadow of his more famous namesake. But here's the thing, he was the true architect of one of India's most brilliant eras. We're talking about Chandragupta I, the man who literally drew the blueprint for India's golden age. But first, let me ask you something. When you hear that name, Chandragupta, who pops into your head? Chances are you're picturing the ancient warrior who founded the Mauryan Empire, the guy who tangled with the Greeks. And you know what? That's totally fair. But today, we're meeting a different Chandragupta, one who is just as important to the story of India. And this right here is why it gets confusing. On the left, you've got Chandragupta Maurya, way back around 322 BC. The guy we're focusing on today is on the right, Chandragupta I, founder of the Gupta Empire, who came to power around 319 CE. That is a 600-year gap. We're talking more than half a millennium between them. And while our guy is maybe less famous, his work set the stage for a period of unbelievable creativity and prosperity. So here's our game plan. We'll start by properly meeting the other Chandragupta. Then we'll see how he leveled up his title in a huge way. We'll look at the game-changing Lichchhavi alliance, and then we're going to dive into some of the juicy historical debates that still swirl around his reign. Finally, we'll look at his legacy as the empire's architect and wrap it all up with 5 key takeaways. Okay, let's get into it. The other Chandragupta. See, his grandfather Sri Gupta started the dynasty, and his father, Ghatotkacha, kept it going. But they were probably just local rulers, Maharajas of a small kingdom. Chandragupta I was the one who completely shattered that mold. He's the one who turned a family business into an empire. So how did he signal this massive shift? Well, it started with a title. And believe me, this wasn't just a simple name change. This was a statement, a declaration of power and ambition that would change the Gupta dynasty forever. Just look at this progression. His grandfather, Sri Gupta, he used the title Maharaja, which means great king. Respectable, sure. His father, Ghatotkacha, did the same thing. It was the standard title for a regional ruler. Then Chandragupta comes along, and he's not just a Maharaja. He goes for something way, way bigger. He called himself Maharajadhiraja, the great king of kings. I mean, wow, that is an audacious claim. It meant he wasn't just a king, he was the king that other kings reported to. This move, which he made around his coronation in 319 CE, was so important that many historians see it as the official kickoff of the entire Gupta era. But come on, you can't just call yourself the king of kings without the muscle to back it up, right? So where did he get the power? The answer lies in probably the single smartest strategic move he ever made. He got married. Chandragupta married Kumaradevi, a princess from the very old and very powerful Lichchhavi clan. Now, this was not a romance story. This was a merger of 2 powerful houses. Overnight, he got the prestige that came with this ancient bloodline, he got access to their military, and he got a solid claim over their lands. This single move was a political masterstroke that gave him control over the absolute heartland of India, the Gangetic Plain. And this is where the story gets really juicy. We've covered the stuff that historians pretty much agree on, but now we're stepping into the world of historical debate, where scholars are like detectives trying to solve ancient puzzles with just a few clues from coins and old inscriptions. This is where it gets fun. So let's start with the biggest question of them all, the one that centers on that all-important marriage. Was it really a brilliant alliance between 2 equal powers who decided to team up? Or was it the result of a war, where the marriage was just part of a peace treaty after a conquest? So you've got 2 main camps here. One theory, from the expert John Allen, suggested that Chandragupta beat the Lichchhavis in battle, and the marriage was basically the terms of surrender. But the theory that most historians lean toward today is that it was a strategic union of equals. And the evidence is pretty compelling. I mean, think about it. Why would the Guptas proudly stamp the Lichchhavi name all over their coins and inscriptions if they had just conquered them? And get this, an ancient text called the Manu Samhita actually describes the Lichchhavis as impure. So it seems really unlikely that the Guptas would try to boost their own social status by linking themselves to a defeated clan that some people look down on. It just makes more sense that this was a partnership. And that brings us to the next puzzle, the gold coins themselves. These things are some of our best pieces of evidence, showing both Chandragupta and his wife Kumaradevi. But there's a huge debate around one very simple question: who actually made them? Well, there are three main ideas floating around. The simplest one is that Chandragupta himself issued them to celebrate the alliance that basically made his empire possible. Makes sense. Another really popular theory is that it was actually his son, the famous conqueror Samudragupta, who made them later on, kind of like a tribute to his parents and a way to remind everyone of his own prestigious Lichchhavi heritage. There's even a third theory that the Lichchavis themselves could have issued the coins to show that this was a new, joint state. The fact that we just don't know for sure is a perfect example of how history is all about interpretation. All right, and that leads us to our last big debate. What were the actual borders of his empire? We know he took the big title, we know he made the big alliance, but how much territory did he actually control? Now, obviously we don't have a perfectly drawn map from back then, so what historians do is kind of clever. They work backwards. They look at the list of all the places his son, Samudragupta, had to go out and conquer, and from that they can figure out what his son didn't inherit. The general agreement is that Chandragupta's kingdom covered the core territories of Magadha, Prayaga, and Saketa. But it's also clear that his empire didn't include places like southern Bengal or stretch too far west. He built the foundation, not the whole house. So let's pull all of this together. The best way to think about Chandragupta's legacy isn't as the guy who built the final massive empire. No, he was the master architect. He's the one who laid the absolutely essential foundation for India's golden age. At the end of the day, Chandragupta didn't build the entire palace, but he's the one who designed the blueprint. He used diplomacy and ambition to create a stable, powerful kingdom right in the heart of India. And maybe the most important thing he did was make sure the right person took over next. He handpicked his brilliant son, Samudragupta, and told him, in the words of an old inscription, to go protect the earth. Okay, let's wrap this up. If you're going to remember anything about Chandragupta I, let's make it these 5 key points. Number 1, he was the true founder. He's the one who took the family from being local chiefs and turned them into an imperial power. Number 2, the power of alliance. That marriage to Kumaradevi was the single most important decision of his entire reign. It was a total game changer. Number 3, the imperial title. By calling himself Maharajadhiraja, he was telling the world that a new era of ambition had begun. Number 4, a legacy of debate. His story is a fantastic reminder that history isn't just a set of facts. It's a puzzle that often has missing pieces. And finally, number 5, he was the architect of the Golden Age. He created the strong, stable launchpad that his son used to build one of the greatest empires in India's history. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The entire Gupta Golden Age, all of its incredible art, science, and literature was built on the foundation this man laid. It makes you wonder, how different would history look if that one single strategic marriage had never happened? Thanks for joining me on this one.